Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our interview with Evgeny Likhoded. Evgeny is a CEO and the founder at CloudMatch, which provides financial institutions with the modern compliance platform to transform the regulatory change management process. Evgeny, thank you for coming to our interview today.
Hi, Boris, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. This is our second interview with Evgeny. For those who didn't listen to our first interview, I advise to go back and find one in our risk management show podcast on any app you have for Spotify, iPhone, or on our site at globalriskcommunity.com. It was in the beginning of May last year. And we saw high engagement of this episode, and we are happy to invite Evgeny for the second interview. So today we will do a deep dive into some of the major topics and what happened specifically last year and how CloudMatch developed from May last year. And we will talk about the important aspects like work from home, about your policy portal and its impact on the market. So Evgeny, can you tell us a little bit what CloudMatch has been up to since we spoke last year, and what's something that on your team have recently achieved that you are really proud of?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first, I guess I have to mention that obviously last year has been extremely challenging for many of us, not just from the company perspective, but also from the personal perspective. Lockdowns and working from home and different circumstances and situations, I think, put a toll on people. But from CloudMatch perspective, we actually had a great year. Last year we brought out a new module to our product. We also had a lot of engagement from North American market, from the US and Canada, and I think there were a number of reasons why our platform has been successful in that market, but also globally last year. So when people went on lockdowns and went working from home, there were a lot of challenges switching to that new mode of working, because obviously I think a lot of organizations had working from home policies, but they never dealt with everyone working from home. And we saw the rise of collaboration tools. We saw the rise of new tools being adopted very quickly, and especially tools which provide that transparency into work of people and how people can collaborate together when they're not in the same office. On the compliance side, what we saw, especially in the US, was a new guidance issued by the Department of Justice on compliance programs, and policy management was a huge portion of that guidance. Department of Justice is now talking about that compliance programs need to be dynamic, they need to be reviewed, they need to be communicated, and not just in a static way where you, for example, you have a document which is a policy document, and then once a year it gets communicated. It needs to be dynamic. It needs to be the entire policy management program needs to be kept up to date, communicated regularly to employees, and companies need to measure engagement with their policies. And with today's tools, it's actually either impossible or very difficult to actually comply with that guidance. So in June last year, we launched a new module to our product, which was a policy portal for employees. So our main platform provides that ability to collaborate and work on documents in real time, and then collect feedback and approvals, and track everything that happens around a development of the policy document. So the new module, what it provides is, once the document is published, it then gets distributed to the right employees, and then employees can engage with that new policy document. They get alerted when updates are issued. They can ask questions. They can also provide attestations. But most importantly, we track engagement with policy documents from employees. And that has been a very successful product that we release because of that guidance. And then organizations that actually believe that policy management is the core of their compliance program have been adopting that product very quickly.
Interesting. So maybe without dropping the names, could you give us some example based on your recent use case of a client where you were surprised by a result, or maybe in a good direction or in bad direction, just for understanding?
Well, I would say we obviously had some negative news as well. A number of potential clients delayed projects because of uncertainty on the market. But in the US, we actually had a flurry of activity. So there were 4 global financial institutions which we signed as clients last year from US and Canada. And the cycle of actually bringing our platform to those global organizations has been much, much shorter than we've seen before. And that has been encouraging. And I think, the reason for that is the business cases became easier to get approval for, especially in compliance and in collaboration.
So what is the commonly held belief in the compliance space that you are strongly or even passionately disagree with, just to know your personal opinion?
Something that I disagree with. Well, I think there is a new wave and revolution happening in compliance space. And that revolution is underpinned by technology, which does bring modern tools to compliance. But it requires empowerment for compliance departments from the leadership. And sometimes we still don't see that empowerment, and we don't see the ability for compliance departments to actually bring technology into the organization. And that kind of shows sometimes that there is less priority on streamlining compliance for an organization. But what we're seeing is that more and more regulators are actually talking about compliance being in the DNA of the organization. And compliance needs to be enforced not just by the system of controls and monitoring, but also it needs to be in the DNA, in the culture, in the mission and vision of the company. And in fact, we just had a great panel yesterday on this topic. And the fact that regulators are demanding that companies bring compliance into their culture. But I think there is also the push from employees to actually have ethical companies because they want to work for ethical companies. They want to work for companies that are, they want to do the right thing. And there is that drive where people actually want to work at companies which have that in their mission.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm wondering, because your company probably is growing very rapidly, and how are you keeping pace with managing, and what important KPIs are you implementing, just to understand as business or kind of owner to founder to another founder, just to.
Yeah, well, we have aggressive, not aggressive, but ambitious target for this year. Last year, we have grown 130%
Wow.
from revenue perspective. And we also expanded to the US. That has been really amazing to see. For this year, we're looking to repeat our story last year and more than double our revenues. But also we started hiring in the US. We're growing our operations there. We went from 0 to 40% of our revenue coming from the US.
Oh, super. So, yeah.
Another KPI is, so last year we went from 2,500 users to over 160,000 users. So this year we want to bring our platform to 1 million users by the end of this year.
Oh. And you are able to be so flexible in one year to grow so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're raising our next round now on the back of our success last year. And that round is going into growth. So growth of our commercial operations, but also more investment into R&D and machine learning, AI capabilities that we have. And obviously servicing customers around the globe, which we can do today, but we're obviously preparing for growth in the number of clients that we'll have.
All right. So I know that AI and ML were the kind of buzz that happened in all these last years. What do you think are the most overrated technology trend, and why people should stay away? Maybe not just jump on every trendy word, because I think that the same AI ML maybe in different formats were used a few years ago. It was kind of analytics, it was something another, but now maybe with more computer power, it's called something else. But just to hear your opinion, how it transformed the business.
I think I'm probably the wrong person to ask whether there are overrated technologies out there, because I think technology is changing our lives extremely rapidly, and I think we underestimate what can be achieved in a very short period of time with the computing power and the developments in the AI industry. With the advancements of AI, for example, in the last 18 months, there were new models released by Google and OpenAI, which have an unprecedented natural language processing capability. So, for example, Google's natural dialogue flow, which they released for the general public, has actually been applied in the compliance space. And we have been experimenting with that technology and with those algorithms. And it's incredible what can be achieved there already which can be achieved today. But the advancements there will continue. So, for example, today you can already, if you have a big enough data set of your compliance content, you're not just able to search for that content, but also you're able to ask questions, and the machine is able to bring you meaningful answers from your compliance content. That's, I guess, the first thing which is already happening, and that can really release that burden from compliance officers and people who need to answer compliance questions on a daily basis. The second iteration of that is, it will require a bigger data set, but for the machine to actually to have the ability to adapt to new changes. And what I mean by that, imagine there is a change in regulation, and there is a policy document and a number of controls which are related to that particular regulation. So the change in regulation can drive, the decision by a machine to actually suggest what would be the relevant changes in the policy documents, in the controls, which would be compliant with that regulation. We're not there yet, but we are developing those types of capabilities whereby, a machine is able to understand what would be a compliant new control or a compliant new policy in relation to that regulatory change.
Oh, wow, that's a very strong word for this artificial intelligence and ML. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of interviews, and now in every interview they're talking about AI ML. Yesterday I spoke with the guys from SAS. They also do something with this. So it's common.
It's an exciting topic because we've done a lot of work with a couple of regulators so far. So one piece of work we've done was with Abu Dhabi regulator. And there we actually took the entire regulatory rulebook in financial services. We digitized it, and then we trained the machine learning. With machine learning, we trained the AI algorithm to actually identify and tag individual sections in the regulation with relevant themes. And also being able to identify obligations in the regulation. And the accuracy we achieved was over 90% accuracy of that tagging exercise, and then extracting entities. And ultimately, this leads to the digital regulation, which will allow to publish regulations in a digital form, but also integrate and embed obligations from regulations into the organization.
Is it in English or Arabic or on both? How is it?
No, this is English.
Interesting. Okay, so very useful. Maybe for our own perspective as a kind of a social network for risk managers, as a global risk community, what is your opinion? How can we contribute to this process of better understanding of this complex world of risk and compliance management?
I would say it's an exciting time to be in risk and compliance because the profession is definitely changing. Departments are changing, and new technologies are being brought to the market. And with implementation of those technologies, it doesn't just really take away the administrative burden of today's highly manual work in many of the compliance departments. But also it increases the job satisfaction. It makes compliance departments being viewed as business partners rather than a cost center, which often provides, puts the brake on what the business wants to do. And the use of technology by compliance departments actually makes people within the organization happy users of the compliance content when you use technology. And we have seen that, with the adoption of our portal, we have seen actually feedback coming from users saying, this is so much better. I can find the exact information that I'm looking for, and I don't need to spend a lot of time to actually find that content or ask someone where it is.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Evgeny, for this interview. Maybe if I didn't ask some question and you want to add something?
No, I guess, well, in closing, I would just like to say that this is an exciting time, and I'm probably repeating myself, but this is an exciting time, and we're seeing that definitely the market is a lot more ready today for new technology. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming easier for the senior management to embrace new compliance programs, to embrace technology in compliance and risk, and to actually put that at the top of the agenda for the organizations.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for your time, and wish you a fantastic growth in the coming period. And you are absolutely helping your customers, and I hope to hear more success story from you in the coming period.
Great. Thank you very much, Boris.
All right.